Trying to figure out which spreadsheet tool is the best for you to use? Well, in this video, I'm going to talk about the differences between Excel and Google Sheets to help you make an informed decision. A question you might naturally have at this stage is, aren't there more choices than just Excel and Google Sheets? So I'll start there. While there are other choices out there and available to you, we're going to focus on the big two, primarily because it's what's known and available to everyone. It means there's a lot more documentation out there to help support you if you're looking for answers, and more people behind the products themselves. Additionally, a lot of the third-party spreadsheet tools that are available out there are limited to specific platforms or devices. They might come free with your phone or with your computer or with some other packaged software bundle. So while these third-party options might have some good benefits and features, the availability and the resources for them is going to be more limited. And quite frankly, my expertise is not there. So let's stay focused on the top two, Microsoft Excel and Google Sheets. I'm going to share with you several differences between Excel and Sheets, and I hope you don't make a decision by listening to just one. They're all going to have different priorities and weights in what you're trying to do. So your project or your use case might influence your decision based on a number of factors. So right off the bat, I just clued you into one of the key differences. One is a Microsoft product and one is a Google product. Why does that matter? Well, if you are already using Microsoft Office products like Word or PowerPoint, you're going to find it a little bit easier to integrate with Excel. Being able to import charts and graphs from Excel into your PowerPoint presentations or your Word documents and so forth is going to be a lot easier for you. Naturally, Google Sheets is also going to easily integrate with other Google products. So if you're already using things like My Drive or Google Slides, Google Docs, things of that nature, you're going to find it easier to implement those cross-platform. Now, both companies have gone to great strides to make sure that you can integrate with other software, so that gap is closing and you can still make things work between Google and Microsoft products on both directions. But generally speaking, you're going to find it more natural, easier, and the tools are going to be in place for you readily and easily when you're integrating like tools. So when it comes to spreadsheets, Microsoft Excel is pretty much the OG. That is the go-to, the one that everybody knows, and the one that Google Sheets was modeled after. You're going to find that they're very, very similar, so you don't have to worry about a big difference in trying to learn or understand. While there are some minor differences in how you might approach something or a specific formula, you're going to find in general that they work very much the same. Sheets was designed to be an alternative for Excel and for it to be something that people could easily transition into. So you're not going to find huge learning curves or discrepancies between the two. All right, so since we just talked about how similar they are, let's look at the biggest and most significant difference between them. Excel was designed to be a piece of software that is installed on your computer, and so everything runs locally. You're opening a software program on your computer, and you're storing your files locally on that device. Sheets, on the other hand, is run through the internet browser that you are using on your device and is not stored locally. In fact, your files are going to be stored in the cloud on an external server. And so this is a big, big difference that has a few different significant impacts. For one thing, you have to think about internet connectivity. If you're working in Excel, then you are working off of your local device and you're not dependent on an internet connection. On the other hand, with Sheets, you're going to be reliant on that internet connection just to be able to access and work on your sheets. Now, this isn't 100% true. You can work offline, there is offline mode, but for the most part, if you're working in Sheets, you want to be able to have reliable internet. And if you're working in Excel, that is not necessary. So, if you are someone who travels or uses multiple devices at different locations, then Google Sheets is a great option for you so that you can access your data through the web rather than on that local device. However, it's dependent on that internet connection. If you're traveling, going to places where your internet is spotty or you're going to have connectivity problems, then that changes things a bit. Another big part of that is whether or not you need other people to access your documents. If you're working on building a spreadsheet that is going to be accessed by an entire team from multiple devices, you want that access to be easy. And Google Sheets, again, is going to play into that a little bit better. However, if you are looking for something that is more secure, like a financial document that is really only for you and you do not want other people to have access to that, then you might be more comfortable keeping that data locally using Excel. Another difference between these two comes down to the integration of programming code. Both products are going to allow you to create some automation and some code to be able to control certain aspects, appearances, or functionality within your documents. However, because of the fact that Sheets is through a browser and accessible to other users, that functionality is a little bit more limited than it is in Excel that is on your local device. In Excel, you can do a little bit more than you can in Sheets when it comes to things like macros and creating integrated code. So if that's something that's important to you, you're trying to really develop something unique and customizable. For example, you want to be able to change the window and the way the entire environment looks. That's easier to do in Excel than it is in Sheets. Excel even allows you to use Python code directly in your spreadsheet formulas. And what about the cost? Yep, there's a difference there too. With Excel, you're going to be paying a monthly or annual fee to use that software. Now, if you already have Microsoft Office, you're already paying for it and it comes bundled with that package. On the other hand, Google Sheets is completely free. So which is the right for you? Well, it is more dependent on the use case of your project than it is on the tool. It isn't that one is better than the other and one is the right option and the other is wrong. It's that depending on what you're trying to accomplish, there are pros and cons to each option. Do you need to provide access to an entire team? You're probably going to lean towards Sheets. If you want to keep it secure and stored locally, you're probably leaning towards Excel. If you've got great internet connection and you don't have to worry about that, Sheets might be a good way to go. If you've already got Microsoft Office or are familiar with and utilize Microsoft products, Excel might be a good way to go. What about multiple devices or locations? Then you're going to lean towards Sheets. And if you're trying to integrate code, maybe lean towards Excel. You want a free product that you don't have to invest in, at least to try it out, start with Sheets. So it's all going to depend on what you're trying to accomplish. And to be quite honest, like I use both quite regularly. So depending on what you're doing, you might bounce between the two. We use one for one project and the other for a different project. So I hope these all helped you in understanding the big differences and which one is going to be right for you.